Okay, we are recording, and in this class, we've been working through these labs and a lot of days. It's just Grant and I working together. Now, where we left off, which was on Tuesday, today is currently Thursday, August 3rd. On Tuesday, Grant, if you scroll up just a little bit, we did a video where we implemented a search interface for bugs, and that was the last video that we just completed. Now, I came in on Wednesday and I tasked Grant with just finishing the lab on his own, and it was at a good point for him to do that. And if you're following along in this class, that is my recommendation to all of you at this point, right? So it's just a very standard operating procedure for teachers to kind of show you and then have you do it on your own. So as we've been doing all semester, we'd have code alongs where I'm showing you how I would do it. And then eventually I have you branch out onto doing it on your own, and we record it, and then you're tested over it, right? So it's a step by step. You're given everything, then you're given a little bit less, and then you're given a little bit less. So my recommendation to anyone following along is to kind of complete the rest of this lab on your own, and then only if you're stuck might you come back to this video and reference Grant's code on how he was able to complete this lab. And so, if you're doing that and you want to go ahead and pause and just work on this, I realize everyone's problems are going to be different, and that's why I'm here to help troubleshoot with you through your problems. At the same time, you might have some similar problems as Grant, which we will walk through. What were the challenges that he had? And so again, pause the video, DIY, work on it yourself. It took Grant a day and a couple hours, so a standard day for us is about 6 hours. And then, it's 10 a.m. now, and we started about 8 a.m. And so we're looking at about 8 hours of work for him to kind of, ballpark, how much the rest of this took. So it was not a small amount of work. And to be clear, this is the only assignment for this week that I'm going to open. Next week, we're going to have our hands-on test. So that's what we can look forward to next week, is our final hands-on test before the final project rubric is opened, which will be our final week. Our last week, I'll open up that rubric for the final project, which is the completion of your bug tracker. Excuse me. All right. So as that intro, Grant, you still with me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So where did you start?
So we can start with so I think I did this first, the search interface for users, since we just finished the one for bugs. And it was, I think, pretty similar to all of the work that we did there.
Yeah, maybe we can start with just looking at the HTML that you wrote. Like, what are the controls that you added? And what do those controls, what does their markup look like?
So we've got the first input, which is the keyword search. And like the bug editor, or the bug list, we've got the setting the keywords and setting the value of keywords, and then coming up here, we've got all of the logic with keywords and sorting and all of the different functions that we have up here.
Okay, so you have a hook for keywords, and you got set keywords where you just modify a string essentially in that hook.
Yes.
And then you pass the keywords to Axios so that when you list, and so here you have an Axios call. What we're looking at there on line 15, you're just listing all your users without any additional. But then if you go down to your button click, let's look at that Axios and see how that's different. And so what I noticed there is you have the URL to your backend, and then you have the auth token inside of a headers object, and now we have an additional third parameter called params, where you pass in keywords. And so, can you demonstrate searching by keywords?
Yeah, so here's my search bar, and if I just say search Gmail, I think that should come up with just the ones with Gmail.
Nice.
I had an inside rank in.
Did you add a bunch of users here?
Yeah, I've got a number of users now. I'm not
And
sure
did you just
where.
manually go in and add them and register them, or did you like do some sort of import into your Mongo?
I manually did it.
You manually did it. Okay. Yeah, and anyone who's doing this should have a bunch of users, should have a bunch of bugs to fully flush out and demonstrate this. And we've been adding as we go, but cool. So that's keywords. Then what?
Then it's filtering by role, and that is something that I've got through. Um, Actually, it's really through all this sort by um, with this drop down list that I've got, where it can sort by any of these, and this will only oh,
You got a bug here, maybe?
yeah, I mean,
So this is a sort by role. So if I'm looking at your roles, you got, D developer first, but you're also searching for developers. So maybe bring in all your users here. And let's go back to the requirement here. Let's go back to the lab. And role. Use a select field to pick a single role. If the user does not select a role, then all roles must be displayed. And so maybe because if you do I should be able to select the developer role in a drop-down list, and I don't think that's what you got. Is that correct?
yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so we'll just pause and I'll let you kind of implement that, and we'll resume when you got that.
All right.
Cool. Okay, Grant, with the quickness on that one, got that done in like 3 minutes or something. So let's talk about it. Grant, what'd you do?
So I had to add role and role filter to params, and that comes from another hook that I created with role filter and set role filter. And then down in my HTML, I've got the value of this drop-down list. I made a drop-down list with all the roles. The value of it is role filter, and the on change is to set role filter.
Okay, so just starting there, I mean, just kind of working backwards. So you got the HTML as a drop-down list. It's a statically coded drop-down list of available roles, and when you change that, you're ultimately changing that hook, and then you set the data in the hook, and then you pass that through on Axios.
Yes.
Okay, let's demonstrate it.
So this I can just say quality analyst, and only everyone quality analyst, technical manager, and then selecting nothing will bring back everyone.
Beautiful, well done. All right, next requirement.
Next is the max age and min age,
Cool.
and that's what I have here. They're number fields. So I think, let's see, minimum age can be 10. That should filter out these two. And it does. And then max age can be 20 days, and it should filter out everyone else.
This is age of how long they've been in the system,
Yes.
not like the user's biological age or whatever you call it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Cool. And then was that just the same as the other one?
Oh, what was it?
That was the same kind of logic there. Let's look at the HTML actually.
So here's both of those inputs, min-age input and max-age input, um, setting the value to min-age and then having another hook to set min and max age. And then that's getting filtered through params. Right here.
Yep, sending that to the back end. Last but not least, you have your sort by.
Yes.
So everything up until this point has been more of a filter, right? And so we've been filtering out users based on different things, and then now
Right.
you have your sort,
Right.
which is ordering, right? You're ordering your results by a certain field.
Yes. So it can be given name, A's at the top, and then family
Yep.
is in alphabetical order. Roles should start with develop or business analyst, and then whoever has developer, and then product manager.
Yep.
Newest, these are the newest. Can see that here, and then oldest is the opposite. 24 days ago down to 9 and then 7.
Okay, and so how about we just look at the drop-down list in the JSX? Let's start there.
And here's that.
Okay.
So sort value again, another hook, and setting the sort value with whatever is in here. And then that's getting put to the back end as those.
Okay, so let's look at how about we look at the hook real quick, and then let's look at the Axios call. I know we've already seen your hooks, but cool.
There's sort value.
Yep.
And it's by default newest. I think that's what the lab says.
Cool. And the push to Axios. Okay.
And sort by is what we have in our backend.
Cool. Great. Next requirement on the lab was
To have a list of comments on the bug editor. And through that, we can go to say here.
okay. So this is essentially, you're getting a bug by ID on the back end. And if I'm just looking at any one of these, you've done a lot here on your edit bug component.
Yes.
So we're just going to try and break it down one piece at a time, right?
Yeah.
And so if we're back to bugs and we're editing a bug, and this has changed a lot. So the first one was to view the comments, right? That's what we're talking about?
Yes, and that's this table here. I think this is one that took a while to get going, so I gotta look at the code again.
All right,
But I think pulling all of this data, because you have to go down a couple of objects within and arrays within your database, because you're getting the bug comments and then you're getting the array of objects which have the comments and the users and the dates, and I think there are roles in that and everything. So it required a couple extra steps, I guess, than a lot of this other data for some of these.
So why don't we start with your table? Why don't we go to the JSX for the table inside of Bug Editor. And by table, I mean your bug comment table. So your table kind of starts there on line 303. You've got a table heading with THs for your columns, which is your comment number, the comment itself, the user that made the comment, and the date. I'll let you take over. Then you got your table body, and what do we have?
Yeah, so then I used Lodash to map through all of the user comments, and I created another component of bug comment kind of make this easier to work with. And passing down the comments on and the unique key, which I got warning that it wasn't a unique key until I put comment ID and the index, and then this is just my bug comment. Yeah, I think it was once we started passing down the comment instead of the bug was where things kind of simplified. I was originally passing down bug and trying to do like getting the index of the comment array within the bug, and this made things simpler. Just getting the comment, the full name, and then using moment again, like in the bug, well, like we used a couple times now, to get that created on.
Yeah, working with
Uh,
dates, that's a library that's worth exploring a little bit more because, again, dates in JavaScript are like notoriously not easy to work with. So working with moment kind of simplifies things. So that's cool. So that's your bug comment component. Anytime you're coding, you're gonna bring over things. You're gonna code things you might not even use, and so like I bet you if you looked at your warnings, like I don't see you're using auth in this component, so maybe
yeah,
not bringing. Don't do it now because it's working, but as you bring in imports that you don't need, as you pass things around that you don't need, you might take some things out. Let's go back to user list again. So again, going to your comment table. Oh, I said user list, but I meant bug editor. Yeah. So user comments is an array of objects. So
yes,
Lodash, you can map each object in the array. And so that's how you kind of pull out one comment at a time. So that's what you're doing there. You're just pulling out one comment at a time with Lodash and sending it down to a bug comment component. That's the simple thing there. And there's a little thing on line 322 that says, hey, if there are no comments, you just do a little, there are no comments, yeah?
yes.
So let's just, let's glance at your different bugs and see that if you go back to bug list, you clicked on the first edit bug, click on the second one.
Oh, it's not. I thought I had that working. That's
You
not
know,
that.
I'm pretty sure that is something that we were still working on even when I was coding the other day.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, suffice to say, we got you could give the user a message, or you just see that there's no comments.
Right.
Fact is, it's not breaking, which is a good thing. Let's keep on. Do you have any other bugs with comments?
Yep.
There you go. So
Couple
that
more.
one
So
has.
it's only grabbing the bugs or the comments from these specific bugs too. I think was.
Yeah, and that one's good because you have different users commenting on that bug.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if either of these have anything. Yeah.
Okay. Well, very nice work again. So that's going to be listing the comments on the bugs. How about the next requirement?
Next is to be able to add a new comment. And this was just an input field that I've got down here currently. And can be, and then it just takes the value of this text box, and when you save the bug, it brings that back into the array. Right now, I would like it to be able to reload the page, maybe when you save a bug, or
Yep.
I might change this a little bit, but it's grabbing the user from off. So you're only needing to actually add whatever is in the comment because it's doing this for you.
Okay. How about we look at your JSX and the add comment field? So this is a standard hook that's just a string for new comment. Now we did something a little different on this one, if I'm not mistaken, yeah?
Yeah.
Um, so on the back end, if I'm not mistaken, this was what we were troubleshooting yesterday. Show your back end because we had to make some changes on the back end here, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I had to make these changes a couple times with the, let's see.
So on our update, yeah, update bug schema, I think. Oh, that was
That
the
was the
assigned to.
classification assigned to, I think was,
Yeah. So we didn't have, and I say we because I'm pretty sure mine doesn't either. On our back end, on Joy, we had to add these properties to make this allowed, right? We had to allow a classification, and we had to allow an assigned to, which is we just said, hey, the assigned to is an object, right?
right, because we're using the same root. We're not using like this classify bug schema or the assign bug schema with how our front end is
Yeah.
wired up. So we had to bring that language
Uh huh.
into the update.
Which we did. We kind of made a back end where we could have used those different back end routes, but we didn't, which is fine. Because I think ultimately it's just the way our database is storing, and I like storing the data that way. I mean, that's the advantage of Mongo is, again, instead of storing data across all these different tables and all these different collections, the advantage of Mongo, as they said in the video, is if you're going to store a car, just put the car in one place, you know. And so just put all the data in one place. That's kind of the advantage of Mongo as opposed to the traditional normalized databases where you're spreading the data across all these tables. So I like our data schema, and so that just drove us to this place. Okay, so that's on the update bug schema. Let's look at the update bug route. What did you have to change there?
And I think we also just had to add this language here. We added the classification assigned to, and I added close, and then here as well.
And the closed, right? So I imagine we had to, in our schema, allow for a closed as well, right?
Yeah.
That was already there, maybe.
No, I had to add that. This is what I worked on today.
Oh, nice. Okay, so we added 3 properties to our scheme. Okay, great. That wasn't there. Okay. So that was on our back end so that we can update the bug in different ways.
Right.
Is there anything else I missed there that you remember we did on our back end?
I think that was it on the back end, yeah.
Okay, and then obviously you're working with the like I was, you're working with the back end that's on G Cloud, so then you had to redeploy that to G Cloud.
Yes.
Okay.
And so using a hook to set the new comment, I'm not sure if this, yeah, we got a full on add comment because we needed a new Axios put to do comment/new. And
So this function is a little bit different.
yeah,
Okay, so when does on add comment get called?
it gets called from update bug if there's a new comment.
Okay, so we made a function called on add comment, and when you click the save button, which calls on update bug, right? The save button on the page calls on update bug. We have an if statement, and we say if there's a new comment, which is a hook, right? Go ahead and show that hook off real quick. Right, so there's your new comment hook. If the user sets a new comment, okay, great. So go back down to your save bug. If there's a new comment is truthy, then we await, because we made it an async function, because it has a database call in it. So we do an Axios database call. So we await on add comment. Okay, And then so let's go down to the on add comment again and look at that. Okay. Before I break into this, just something that's on my mind. Um, this code could be simplified. What I noticed is you and I, and so you're following my lead here. We have a lot of Axios calls. It could be simplified so that when the page loads, you've got your use effect. So just take a look at use effect for me. And I don't need to dive into this too deep, but on use effect, notice at the bottom, remember something on use effect. On the bottom of use effect, so I think, see there, you've got that array, and it says, hey, when bug ID or auth changes, that's when you rerun use effect. And so
Right.
you could have it in there where if, I don't need to dive into this now. I shouldn't have even started, but you could have it in there where any of your hooks change, it calls Axios to do the update, and okay, doesn't matter. I did a terrible job explaining that, anyways. I'll let you continue. So where did we leave off on the add comment
Adding,
function?
yeah.
Okay, let's look at that add comment function for me. Okay, you want to kind of walk through that?
Yeah, so I think basically if you have values in the text box to call this and have a new comment, and it sets the uh, comment, the sort of text of the comment as that new comment, and then it pulls, the other things required for comments are the user and the user ID and creating a date, and all that stuff is being done through auth and our backend.
Yeah, so I guess one thing to note there on line 171, we are now going on a different backend route where we're passing a bug ID comment new.
Right.
And that's really all it needs. The backend, like you said, it's going to read the auth token and extract who's logged in and whatever else is needed, their ID. Go back to, so the text box is just a very standard hook with that set comment and the value.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Value new comment and set new comment.
okay. All right. I think we covered all that.
I guess the classification. Yeah. So this is just I think this is new, another drop-down list where you can select any of the classifications that we have and then save it, and that updates the classification. And this is, I think, pretty standard. I just hard-coded in the 4 classifications, and the values, the initial bug classification, which I think is coded towards the top of my page, and then on change is just to call the edit classification.
Now, as we've done before, your user might have the ability to classify a bug or not.
Yeah.
And so you might consider conditionally displaying these controls based on their permissions.
Yeah.
And, when we're looking at these labs, obviously you're meeting the requirements that have been given, and that's going to get you a majority done with what I want you to build. But then you are going to be given space in the last week or week and a half to really make this your own and customize it. And so all semester long, we bitch you up to this place, and it's like, hey, I'm not going to ask for it, Grant, but it would make a whole lot of sense that you would only display these controls if they had permissions.
Right.
So that's going to be something that and anything else that you want to build in, you'll have the flexibility to do. Okay, cool. So that's classification. Again, on the back end, you had to accept the classification edit, and
Yeah, we had to add this language here and up here, 209, and this at 205, and then also the schema.
so again, those kind of three: classification, assigned to, and closed. Now, assigned to was really unique, right?
Yeah,
We haven't covered that one yet.
yeah.
Are we missing any code there for classification? I don't think so.
I don't think so. The initial bug classification, if I can find that,
Yeah, show that.
is just the bug classification.
Okay, so that's not a hook.
Right. And then edit classification, getting the nukes classification, and spreading the previous bug and setting the classification as the new classification.
So you had an initial classification, and now you have a is new class. Neither of those were hooks. Initial classification or new classification.
Yeah, it just gets passed through
Interesting. Okay.
up here.
Okay. So let's demonstrate one more time changing the classification.
Goes from unclassified to duplicate,
Cool.
and gets as duplicate.
Clearly working.
And assigning bugs was the one that I think took the most time, because what you have to do is bring in your users list here and populate that drop-down list with the users list. So there's another Axios call on the bug editor load that is the users list. And this was just the same as populating the users list in the users list component. And then, let's see.
That looks like it right there.
It's right here. Setting the value as the assigned to full name, and then mapping through the users. So this is possible because we brought in the users list through Axios. And then on change, it's calling edit assigned to. Which is this function, which took a little bit of troubleshooting to work out. Right here, we're using a for each to just kind of search through our users list and finding a user full name that equals the new assigned to, which is the property within the drop-down list. And then once it finds one that matches, it assigns the full name, ID, and role to that, uh, or it assigns those properties to the bug. Now it's reassigning it. So this was just a little bit complicated because you're not just setting a new string like classification. You're actually having to kind of dig through that object in the database and find
Hmm.
the correct user and
Yeah,
setting
just
the
to
ID.
point out on line 107, we create an empty object called new assigned to user. And then when you're looping through all your users equals, when the user's full name matches whatever they selected in the drop down list, that's what 109 says, then we populate that object with all of its values.
Yep. And then it is calling step bug again and changing this assigned to object to these three new values.
Yeah. Yep.
So through here, it's currently assigned to Jane Smith. I can assign it to Bob Smith and say bug, and it gets assigned there.
Now, and then importantly as well, going on the back end in the database, if you look at that object, the Bob Smith assigned to object, that is Bob Smith's ID, and that is Bob Smith's roles, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So can you kind of go there and look at that bug and show that it did update the database with all of his data in there?
Yeah. So I think it was this one, and he's got the ID that ends in 88B8, and he's just the developer.
And then go ahead and change the assigned to real quick, and then just show that that data is changed on that.
Yeah. I can assign it to, say, myself, because I've got a different array of roles.
Yeah.
And different ID, and then the role array is changing as well.
Beautiful. This is good stuff.
So it took a lot of troubleshooting. It was not properly assigning for a long time.
All right. So back to the lab. So assign bugs. We can now assign bugs. And it looks like the
And-
next one is a closing the bug.
Yeah, the form, it's just a checkbox to open or close. And I still got this, but it's just checkbox to close bug, and that's able to go between true and false. This one was already set to true, I believe. Oh,
I'm not sure that were you on the first one?
yeah, that's a bug.
That's a bug. We were just looking at that too.
Yeah. I think it properly goes from false to true.
Uh-huh. But it
but
doesn't
not
show it there.
false. Okay.
Is that right?
What?
Let's see it one more time. So click on edit bug. And okay, it is. Now
It's
click
saying-
edit. Click it again. Does it? Okay, right now it's true. So uncheck it and save it, and go back.
Yeah, it's going from false to true, but not from true to false.
So if you click edit bug, is it still checked? It is. So you can uncheck it and save it, but it doesn't keep it, right?
Doesn't do anything, but I can go to this one and say true, and now this one's true.
Okay, let's take a look at that. Before we show off the code, let's fix it. Okay, Grant, you want to walk us through what we did?
Yeah, so it was some work on the back end. So this basically was getting flagged because closed is a Boolean variable. So when
Yeah, what'd you have there before, just so that,
It was just this before.
yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
when it was false, it was not triggering this if statement to update the bug basically, or
yep,
update
yep.
that property.
So then
So by
you,
changing this to undefined, it still is passing through even when close is false.
yeah, so if you kind of look there on line 204, you've got object destructuring happening. And so you get from the rec.body, which basically means from the client, the request object has a body, and it may have closed on it or it may not. If it doesn't, close is assigned an undefined value. So you're either sending true or false over to closed, and or undefined. So it's either true, false, or undefined. And so his line 211 now says, hey, if it's not undefined, then go ahead and update the bug with true or false, basically, is what that does. And then demonstrate that for me.
So now I can change this close bug from true to false, and the second bug is now false. And I can change it back to true.
Nice. Awesome work. Anything else on the lab?
I don't think so. It's just the formatting
Okay.
filing.
All right. So that's Lab 504. That's going to be where we call it for this week. And like I said, next week we will have a hands-on test over React. And that'll be a primary amount of the work next week. And I think that's it for this video. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you.
Yep.